Welcome to the Habits Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Martinez. Today we have returning guest, Mr. Seth Hardy. If you have not seen the episode, please go check it out. We talk about investing in Indiana. We talk about using a meetup to drive leads as referrals. But today is Deal Breakdown. We cover cool, interesting stories. Seth is back to cover an interesting house story.
Yeah. How do we typically get started with these? I just kind of walk through the story and go from there.
Walk to the story. We're ready.
All right. So a lot of what I did at this time was run sales appointments. And so I was running an appointment in Gary, Indiana. There's a lot of interesting stories that I have in Gary, but one of them was this. It's the first time I've ever seen this, the only time I've ever seen this. I meet a gentleman in front of a house in Gary and claims to not live there. Drives up in an old beat up Ford F-150, and he pulls it right. There's a driveway, but he pulls it right into the front yard. So meet up with him, shake his hand, introduce myself, tell him who I am, how things are going to go. And he's like, all right, man, well, if you need me, let me know. I'm just going to unlock the house, let you walk through and do your thing. And, let me know what you think. So start walking around the house, and there's stuff everywhere. He's got an RV on the left side of the house that looked like it had been there for probably 40 years. It's all overgrown, like trees and stuff all over it. And then I go to the backyard. It looks like there's a tire shop back there. Like they're just 4 or 5 feet of tires the entire backyard. So I'm walking around like chest deep in tires, trying to wiggle my way through things, just trying to get through it. So I get through that side of the house, and on the other side of the house, he's got an old Mercedes with the roof completely cut off, and he was very adamant to tell me that he was going to renovate that, and he's really proud of his convertible. So that was interesting. There was no convertible top. The top was completely chopped off. But so that was my exterior walk, and then I go into the house, and I walk through, and it's actually not that bad compared to some stuff that I've seen. I'm like, okay, maybe this is a deal if we can get him to clean out all the stuff around the house first. And as I'm walking through it, it used to be a 3-bed house. He knocked out a wall to make his bedroom a very large master bedroom. And instead of putting up another wall, he has a very large fish tank that is his wall. So he kind of built and framed around it, so it was a legitimate wall, but his fish tank was his wall. It was pretty interesting. But I'm walking through, and I'm kind of like, all right, cool. I see everything that I need to see. It needs everything for remodel. And I ask him, I'm like, hey, man, the lights aren't turned on. It's kind of hot in here. Do you have power to the house? He goes, oh, yeah, hold on just one second. He was like, I bet you never seen this before. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? So he's like, hold on a minute. I got to jump my house. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, I got to jump my house. Okay. He's like, you've never seen this before. So I'm like, what do you got to do? He's like, I'm going to go out to my truck and jump the house. So he gets these jumper cables out of his car, and they were in the bed of his truck. Gets the jumper cables, straps them to his truck, and then straps them to something inside the house, very, very close to the breaker box. And he has to turn and crank the engine 2 or 3 times on his Ford F-150 that's in the middle of the front yard. And after 2 or 3 turns of the engine, it finally kicks on. He revs the engine up a little bit, and then he flips the breaker, and I see the lights come on. He's not connected to the local power grid. He quite literally jumped his house. So it's the very first time, and probably the only time that I've ever seen that to this point. But yeah, he jumped his house to turn the power on.
So I'm not an electrician by no means, but what I think he did is he overexerted the breaker to get power to his house. And that, I guess, it's my theory. I have to talk to an electrician about this one.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it before, and I didn't question it. I was just like, all right, cool.
I'm gonna have to talk to an electrician about this one, because this one's very intriguing. But one thing about your market is you have wild stories.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
You have
there's
wild stories, and that they're ever incoming, and they're never going to stop.
something new every week.
That's funny.
Yep.
So jump in a house. I've never heard the story. I'm gonna have to do some research. For anybody here, leave a comment or something if you've heard about this. But I'm very curious to know how this was done. In fact, I'm gonna call an electrician.
I just
And
don't know how he figured that out. Like at some point they shut the power off, and he he had to have asked somebody how to, or did he just do it himself? And that's a little risky. I don't know if I would have done something like that.
well, I mean, we're not put to desperation to do that. So I don't know. I don't think we would ever figure that out. But now that I know it's possible, maybe like in the apocalypse times, this is something good to know.
Something good. In theory, it kind of makes sense. That's what they do with generators, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know how he had it hooked up, but however he had it hooked up, it was very interesting.
So for that is definitely a good episode for Deal Breakdown. Where can people find you online? This has been an interesting episode today.
Yeah. You can Google Dynasty Real Estate. You can look us up on Facebook at Dynasty Real Estate, Instagram at It's a Flippin' Dynasty, Facebook as Seth Hardy, and Instagram SethHardy.RBI, or you can go to our website, webuy219.com.
There you go. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate everybody. If you have not seen the episode, please go check it out. We had a really good conversation. But for everybody here, thanks for tuning in. We will see you on the next episode. Thank you, Seth, for coming on. We appreciate you. Go like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next